previous video, we looked at detailing our dinosaur. We used a couple of techniques, for example, the spines on our dinosaur, as well as the teeth to detail this core mesh. Now I'm going to discuss an alternative way to detail the core mesh here. Now the way that we're going to do that is by using this option here called Smooth CC, which means Smooth Catmull-Clark, and this essentially is a subdivision method by which we can subdivide this low polygon cage into a higher resolution mesh. Now if you come from a program like ZBrush, you are able to increase the subdivision level, make changes at that higher polygon subdivision level, and then come back to this lower polygon model with those changes intact. Unfortunately, within the modeling workspace, we don't have that option. However, we can use this Smooth CC option here as a preview to any changes that we make to the lower polygon mesh. So if I roll over this option here, you can see that I've set up a hotkey, which is Shift+C on the keyboard, which will allow me to toggle this button on. So if I do that now, Shift+C, you can see that I increase the resolution of my object. Now if I make any changes to this object at this resolution, I can't now go back to my previous low polygon cage. Those changes are now fixed at this resolution. So in order to go back, unfortunately what I'd have to do here is to undo and undo again to go back, in which case I've lost those changes at that higher resolution. So to be clear, all I'm doing here is pressing Shift-C to use Catmull-Clark subdivision to preview the changes that I make at a lower polygon level. So if I go back to my lowest polygon level, which is essentially undo, I can make changes now. Let's say, for example, I can change this neck area. So I'll use my move tool and I'll make some changes to this neck area here and push it really inwards like this. And then I can hit the Catmull-Clark smoothing option to see just how much influence that would have at a higher subdivision level. So here, for example, I've defined the throat area of the dinosaur a lot more with those simple changes at the lower subdivision level. So now if I undo that, I'm happy with that change. So I will keep that modification as a good edit at a lower subdivision level. And I've used my Catmull-Clark subdivision to preview what this change looks like at a higher subdivision level. Now you may have noticed on the right side here the multi-resolution option. Now the multi-resolution option does perform similarly to ZBrush. However, it doesn't work within the modeling workspace. It works within the sculpting workspace. And we'll look at this option in more detail later. Right, I've zoomed in to this area here of the mouth. And if I use my preview to see what this would look like at a higher subdivision level, you can see that the mouth rounds out quite a lot, whereas in our reference it's quite pinched at the ends here. So if I was to take this into the sculpt room now, I would have to do this pinching of this area within the sculpt area, and I want to get this a little bit more accurate at the lower polygon subdivision level. So this is an indication of an area where I would have to work harder in the sculpt room to achieve that shape there, because I'd left it quite coarse in the low polygon version. So let's undo that, preview, and now I can come in here and make some changes to this. So I can come in with the move tool and we'll choose edges here, and I will just bring these edges down here and bring these ones up to start to pinch this area. Let's change over to point mode, and I do have my symmetry enabled on this as well. So I'm just pinching this down, and then I'm going to hit Shift-C, and I can now see that at a higher subdivision level that I'm going to get that shape a lot better than I did with the previous version. So these changes are very subtle, but when we come to sculpting in this object, this topology is going to help me and enable me to achieve the shapes that I want to much better than how it was previously. So let's undo that, and that's a change there that I'm going to keep at the lower polygon level. So let's have a look at another example here where we can detail our low polygon model using the preview of the Catmull-Clark smoothing. So again, let's focus on this area here. And when I subdivide this down, you can see that I would need to sculpt this information in to get that detail. And it's quite a deep recess in the nose area here. So it's an area where I'd like to add more detail at a lower polygon level. So let's undo that subdivision. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look and see where I can make those changes here. So these two polygons I need to change here and here. And I'm going to push those ones inwards a little bit. There's a couple of ways I can do that. So what I've gone ahead and done here is selected these edges, as we can see, and I'm going to use my space bar and split edge command on there. I'm going to move over to points and move, and I'm just going to separate these, and I'll do one here as well. This one is intact, it's still welded, which is good. And I'll continue down here, and this one's split and I don't want that, so I'm going to align it back over with the other vertice, which will weld it to that point. I want this split to finish at this vertice here. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to add this detail in by moving these ones down and under to create a ridge underneath. I will have to just move these pieces around as well. So that creates that ridge that we can see here. And I probably need to move this out as it's quite thick above the eye, and move this one in a little bit to give that a lot of definition there. And it slowly tapers out to the nostril. Now on the other side, even though I have my symmetry enabled, you can see that I'm not getting the same result here. This isn't a problem because once I've got this side how I want it, I can very easily mirror that over just by clicking this button here to symmetrize, to resymmetrize my model. So I'm only focusing at this point on this side of the model. So with that done, let's use our quads tool here set to direct, and I'm just going to join these edges together. Now I'm getting a message down here every time I do this because I'm getting, we can see there, we're getting non-manifold mesh here, and that's because of the errors on this side. And then I've got two triangles either side of here, so I'm going to use split rings and I'm just going to create a split in there. Let's go back to my move tool with points selected and just massage these points now to create that ridge. And if it's not deep enough, which it isn't, I can go in there and just push these ones inwards and let's create that flow around this here. This area here will cause a little bit of a problem, so I'm just going to work that around there. So now with that done, if I use my Catmull-Clark subdivision preview, we can see that I'm going to have a good foundation here to start sculpting on top of this. So I've created those landmarks there in order to sculpt on top of. And if I go back to my lower polygon level there, we can see that I'm going to have that silhouette. Now, what I can do now is the other side has not maintained symmetry whilst I was doing those edits. I can come into here now with my symmetry enabled on the Z axis and hit this button here. And now you can see it's resymmetrized my model and updated this side with these edits. So at this point I can come in here and increase that brow region even more and make more of a silhouette at this low polygon level, and use my preview just to look at those edits. If I need to do it a little bit more, undo the Catmull-Clark and just make some more edits here, maybe to make this brow ridge a little bit more aggressive looking at a lower polygon level, and check again. It enables me to figure out where I need to place a little bit more geometry to help the silhouette of the dinosaur. Okay, let's do one more example here, and we can see we have this nostril area, and we can also see that we have this rounded nose on here. So if I use my preview here, you can see the profile of our shape here is quite flat, and also we don't have any landmarks or geometry to create the nostril area. So I would have to, if I was to subdivide this over and over again, I would have to sculpt in this area. So I want a little bit of a landmark here that I can sculpt around. So I'm going to have to make some geometry for this. It's a lower subdivision. So let's undo that subdivision. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go over to split rings and I'll add a split on this nose area. Use the move tool here and let's just round this out a little bit more. And let's just lift this up a little bit more, just so it's a little bit more like a snout area. And again, I'll use the Catmull Clark just to preview what that would look like, just to see if I'm getting into the shapes that I'm after. It's given me that understanding of the higher poly to lower poly ratio and the silhouette that I can achieve if the groundwork has been done at the lower poly level. Use select and vertice, and I'll select that vertice there, and I'll go spacebar, bevel, and I'll increase the size of that bevel, and I will have add face checked to create the beginnings of the nostril geometry. Now obviously here I've got n-gons that have been produced, and I don't really want to work with n-gons at this stage, so I'll use add and split, and I'll just connect these up here, which will help me to not only remove the n-gons but also help me shape this, what is effectively a diamond shape at the moment, and shape it more into this elliptical shape that we have here. So we know that this ridge that we've just previously created follows down into the nose area here. So this is this line here. If we just zoom out, this is this row of polys here. So we need it to kind of shape into this area here. So we're just going to produce that kind of tier shape, that elliptical shape with this extra geometry that we've created there. And it seems as if it's going from this elevated area that we've put in here. Just lift this up. Something like that. So that gives me the geometry there to create and sculpt on top of, but we're not quite finished yet. So I'm going to take and select this polygon here, and what I'll do is just transform this. Let's put it to local and hit an extrusion and extrude down with this one and scale it inwards a little bit as well. And let's do another one and escape that. And let's say we wanted to have a little bit more of a ridge on here. I could use split rings on here, and I could just add another ring around here, and that's plenty of geometry there. Just use the move tool and just start to manipulate these points again. Now I've got this n-gon in the center here, which I can easily just remove by using add and split, and I'll just create a quad there and a quad there. So now if I use the Catmull Clark smooth preview, you can see I've got that geometry there now, which helps me to sculpt more definition and tertiary definition now around this nasal area and up over the brow, etc. So in the next video, we'll continue with our secondary detail pass and then move on to our tertiary detail pass within the sculpt room. See you next time.